three winners of the competition. They were absolutely brilliant, and I hope they'll share with us about their experience and what they found of the competition. Then we'll give a little bit of advice about your entry, how you can make it stand out, and what sort of thing we're looking for. And then we'll be looking to answer your question and answers and get your perspective on what you'd like to hear. So to begin then, the competition is called the Young Economist of the Year competition. Our main sponsor is KPMG UK. We're very grateful to them for making this happen, and we're also supported in sponsorship by the Financial Times. The aim of the competition is just to encourage young people like you to get involved in economics and to consider it as a possibility for what you might study in the future, and to think about some real life economic problems. So you may have already seen the questions. They're available on our website, and there's 5 questions to choose from, and they're all linked to real things, real problems that people in the UK face. For example, one of them is whether the government should tax goods that are unhealthy, and obviously that's very relevant with new legislation coming in around smoking and things like that. So take a look at that. It's all available on our website. Have a think about which question really interests you, because the more interested you are in what you're doing, the more likely you are to produce something that's really good and exciting. The competition is open to ages of students in year 10 or to year 12 in England, or equivalent in Scotland and Northern Ireland and Wales. We encourage you to enter either as an individual or in a group of up to 5 people. Now, if you are entering as a group, you don't have to all be in the same school. In fact, we encourage you to find people who might be in different schools, different school types to you. It's a really good opportunity to work with other people that you might not have worked with in school before. If you've never studied economics before, we really would love to hear from you. We think it's a brilliant opportunity for you to try economics for the first time, even if you've never considered it before. You don't have to be studying economics GCSE or economics A-level. You'll find that some of the sources that we've linked on our website will be really useful to you, and it doesn't necessarily mean that your entry won't be as good as someone who is studying. So please do consider entering, even if you aren't studying it. Again, all backgrounds are encouraged, ethnicities, genders, everyone is encouraged to apply and submit, and we'd love to hear from you because it gives us different perspectives on the questions. So, just like economics, we hope will eventually become a really diverse field. We aim to start here with you guys today. So, please don't be put off by any of your prior experiences, where you are, who you are. We want to hear from you. So, as I've said, we've got 5 questions for the competition, and we encourage you to submit your entry in written format, which is like a blog post, up to 1,000 words, or as a video or a podcast. Now, videos and podcasts, we ask that they're only 5 minutes long, up to 5 minutes long, and you can then also submit your references as a separate document. So there's a place for that on the submission form. If you go over, you do kind of get marked down a little bit in the process. So apologies, yes, someone has just called me out already. Yes, year 13s can still enter. Apologies, yes, you can. Yeah, if you go over with your written submission or over in the 5 minutes, then yeah, it does sort of mark you down a little bit, because we are aiming for quite a concise summary of some of these questions. So do try and keep it short and sweet. Once we've got all the entries, we spend most of the summer looking through them. Last year we had over 2,000 entries, so it does take us quite a while, and we hope to give quite a lot of attention to the submissions as well, make sure that we really are doing them justice, because some people have put a lot of work into them. So we review them. There's lots of different criteria for what we're looking for. One of them is originality. So if you think you've got a completely different perspective on the question, please do go ahead with it. We're really interested to hear your thoughts. One of them is about how well you're referencing and sourcing. So it's really important that you do include your references. We don't ask that it's sort of like Harvard style reference or any particular, but you do have to make sure you're saying where you're getting those sources from. And there is a plagiarism check and a check on use of AI as well. So be very careful that you're not falling foul of any of those things. If you need any advice, there's a how-to referencing document on our website that you're welcome to refer to, or you can just drop us an email and we can always support you with that, because we're aware this might be the first time you've ever written anything with references, and that's absolutely fine. It's more about just, keeping a record of where you're getting your sources from. So once we've reviewed them all, we whittle them down to sort of the last 25, and then we do an even more in-depth check and a more thorough sort of a review of what we've got. And finally, we get it down to 5 finalists. Now, last year we had 5 brilliant finalists, and Sammy and Yia obviously were the winners of that group. But we got everybody together. We had a really lovely event. Actually, we were invited to the Treasury to to Her Majesty's Treasury and we had a brilliant tour. We spoke with the chief economist from the Treasury, and then we went and we had an absolutely amazing tour down Downing Street, which was one of the highlights for me. We're hoping to do something like that again this year, although we haven't had that finalised yet. But what will definitely happen is the final at Canary Wharf at the KPMG offices. So the KPMG are, as I said, our headline sponsor, and they've kindly offered us some space at the amazing offices in Canary Wharf. So we'll get all those 5 finalists down to Canary Wharf and they'll present their research and their position to us there. It's hosted by a panel of expert judges. They'll ask you some questions. They're very kind, but they are also very thorough. You know, they really do know their business. So they'll speak to you about your submission, and then finally it's judged and the winner announced. So if this sounds something that you're interested in, then the website's the place to start. So our website, discovereconomics.co.uk, go to Get Involved and you'll find Young Economist 2024 under there. It's got everything you need. There's some frequently asked questions on there already, and I'll update it with anything that people come up with today. There's also the submission form that you need. It can be quite a long submission form, unfortunately, especially if you're a group of 5, but hopefully it'll all be worth it when you're in Canary Wharf in October. And that's most of the things that I have to go through with you, to be honest. That's most of the admin. So at this point, I'm going to pass over to Sammy and Yia, who are going to give you a little bit of an overview of their experience, tell you how they found it, and maybe some advice and tips from them too.
All right, thank you, Abby. I'm Yia, and
I'm Sammy.
Yeah, and so we entered last year, and we did our project on the question of what can economics tell us about how big tech should be regulated, if at all. And we did that. We were in year 11 when we entered the competition, so we didn't take economics GCSE, so we really didn't know any of that, like any of the curriculum knowledge. So it really just shows that you don't need any prior economics knowledge to enter this competition.
Yeah, we sort of just chose it because we were sort of interested in economics in general, and we thought it'd be good to engage in it at a certain aspect by doing this competition. We can talk about the process now, I guess.
Yeah, I would say that the hardest part of the competition is actually choosing your question, because all the questions are interesting on their own. And the one that we went for was not necessarily the one we knew the most about, but it was the one that seemed most interesting to us.
Yeah, I think I would say don't go for the most comfortable question because you might actually confine yourself. I think it'd be better to choose a question that you can say a lot about, and actually there's lots of aspects to talk about it, because I think that would actually make you have a better entry overall. The process itself, aside from the question, so actually researching, doing the entry. So our entry was quite unorthodox because it was a video essay, but I think for us, as 2 people, that was the best for us, just because it played to our strengths. Because I think if we had written it down in an essay format, it wouldn't have been as good as it could have been as it was said out loud, if that makes sense. So I think you should probably take the competition style to your advantage, because if you work better in a group, this will be good for you. And if you think you're better articulate out loud instead of writing down, definitely do a video entry or a podcast.
Yeah, I think that was part of the reason why we decided to enter this competition, because we'd never seen a competition before that allowed you to not only do group entries, but also an entry in a different format to what we were used to. So we just found that really interesting.
If you have studied economics before, I think it might be better to do a video essay, but not necessarily. You might be a good writer, who knows?
Yeah. So once we picked our question, we started with research. So initially we were very organized with our research. We split the main question, you sort of using a mind map into different sections, and we allocated the different subtopics to each other, so we could do more focused research.
I mean, you didn't have to do this, but obviously the benefit of a group is you're able to delegate tasks to each other, and it just speeds up the process. So that's a good advantage. Yeah, so we were organized at the beginning. We did kind of go off tangent later on, I have to admit. But I think because we were quite organized in the beginning and had sort of planned it out briefly, we did pull through obviously at the end.
Definitely. So I would just say try and at least stay organized in the beginning, so you know what your aim is and what you're trying to do. It doesn't really matter if you kind of lose that a bit towards the end, because at least in the beginning you know what you're doing.
Yeah. And then what we gained, so like you said, this was sort of our first competition economics wise or any sort of economics engagement. So I think it actually sort of taught us to like think more critically about economic issues, because in economics you might think of it as a purely economic lens, like obviously different economic schools of thoughts. But I think obviously the question, we were forced to sort of look at it at different lenses, like political, historical. So I think actually doing competition has made us think more deeply about economics in our like day-to-day lives.
Yeah, I just think that the whole all the research we did for this competition was very rewarding in itself. As we now take economics A level, and I still find that some of the research that we used during this competition is still relevant to what I'm doing in school, and I can like sort of bring this information that I have during lessons and like even into my essays sometimes.
Yeah, and also like the skills you have in general, like learning to research, learning to like actually think about an issue is very valuable. I guess any advice we give, we've sort of said it already, but just to reiterate, choose a question that actually interests you. Like, don't confine yourself and like don't bore yourself, because you'll only do well if you actually enjoy doing it. And like make use of like what's been given to you, because you're allowed to do many different formats. Like play to your advantages. If you're creative, don't necessarily go for the essay format. You can do a podcast, you can do loads of things. Like, yeah, that's what I'd say.
Oh yeah. And kind of make like a brief outline or like plan in the beginning so you know what to research. And if you can, keep track of like what you've read and what you've like watched in just like a document with like little notes of what you thought about in each bit of research that you did. It helps a lot when it comes to like actually putting the whole thing together. So that's about it.
Brilliant. Thanks so
Yeah,
much, guys.
okay.
And the last one from me, I'd just like to ask, did you enjoy it? Like overall, was
I
it
did enjoy it. It
enjoyable?
was, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we
very
love
fun. The
Good.
process was fun, and also going to, Treasury, very much fun. Yeah,
that was that was very exciting when we went to Downing Street.
yeah,
Oh, good. I'm glad you said you enjoyed it, because that would have been quite an awkward answer to that question.
yeah.
So thank you very much to Sammy and you. It's really brilliant to hear from you guys, because you're exactly the type of people we wanted to submit, not necessarily convinced that economics was for you, or that it was your future, but just interested in the sort of questions we were asking. So some advice from Discover Economics on the back of that, sort of similar to what Sammy and you were saying. Try not to make it too complicated. There is a bit of a desire to make it your best piece of work ever and really, really complicated and really go into the economics, and whilst that is brilliant, you have to remember that this will be read by your peers, sort of students age year 10 to year 13, so it has to also be accessible. The Financial Times are really keen that it is something that anyone could pick up and read and understand, so you're welcome to include things like mathematic models if you feel that would support your argument, but make sure it's explained really, really clearly. You don't have to use really technical language. If you are going to include a concept from economics, that's absolutely fine, but just, like I say, explain it and make it mean something for your point of view. Like I said before, take care with your referencing your sources. We've had a few questions about referencing in the chat. It doesn't count towards your word count, so you can write your essay if it's an essay, and then you can put your references at the end. They don't count, so don't worry about that. And if you're doing a video, again, they don't count towards your 5 minutes, but if you'd like to put them in as credits at the end, that's fine. Make sure that you're referencing properly, or putting your sources down, because otherwise it could be deemed as plagiarism, and we will be putting submissions through an AI checker as well. Like we said, an original, unique perspective. Some of the ones we got last year were really quite funny, and they drew in some really interesting case studies that we hadn't thought about, and that always makes an entry really stand out. So the more you can draw on your own experience or something that you might have read from kind of a unique source, that would be absolutely brilliant to see. And the judges do like to see a diversity of views. So it's not all me and the Royal Economic Society reading these. We get economists from a range of industries having a look, and from a range of backgrounds. Therefore, we get some more interesting ones. So if you're a state school student, you might want to partner up with someone from a private school, or vice versa, or someone who lives quite far away from you. It just really helps draw in some new ideas. Please try not to have anything that identifies who you are in your submission, because we do anonymize them when we read them. It just helps us to keep any bias out of the way. And finally, from us, make sure that you sign up to our newsletter, because that's where we'll be putting out more hints, more tips, more questions and answers, and follow us on social media, and you can find all of that on our website. So that's all our advice, and now I think we'll just take a look at the questions and answers and try and answer them as best as we can. If we don't get through them all today, then I will post them all on our website, and again on social media, on the newsletter. You can catch up with everything there. So The deadline for the competition is the 12th of July, the end of the day, so sort of midnight on the 12th of July 2024. So that should give you enough time after your sort of GCSEs and A-levels to work on it if you wanted to focus on your examinations first. We're aware that, you know, students in year 11 and 13 and equivalent will have some big exams coming up. So, you know, after that, then you can focus on this. We don't have a preferred entry format. So, you know, if your strengths lie in an essay, like Sammy and Yia were saying, then by all means, please do write an essay. If you feel more comfortable in front of the camera, brilliant. You know, we are trying to build our TikTok channel at the moment. So, you know, those people doing those short form videos can do some really amazing things with that content, and it can be really engaging. So if you think that you're, you know, a TikTok star, then by all means, we'd love to see it. Someone's asked, do you advise exploring one angle to the question in depth or multiple in less depth? I mean, it's up to you. You do have quite a limited space, so it might be best to sort of like choose your perspective on it and really run with that. But I mean, most people last year did also, you know, talk about the alternative argument and why they weren't, you know, completely convinced of that argument. So, but like I say, you know, it is up to you. Someone's asked, can I send my entry in independently without my school sending it in? Yes, the form is just available online. So, I mean, you're welcome to tell your school you're doing it. I don't think you really necessarily have to. Once you get through, if you do get through to the finals, then you'll probably need to tell your school, because someone will probably need to accompany you to the finals from your school. But your school doesn't have to send it in for you. Another question is, do we need to put the question into the context of the UK economy or any other country, or are we free to interpret the question on a global scale? That's a good question. You're free to do it however you like. I mean, some of the questions lend themselves more to globalization and a sort of wider geopolitical view. Some of them, you might just want to focus on the UK. That again is up to you, and just to sort of think about how much space you've got to answer the question and you know, how best you can present your argument, but that again is up to you. You're welcome to use mathematical models, but try not to make it too complicated. Do you recommend incorporating other viewpoints? Yeah, I mean, you're welcome to. Ethical and political, I mean, a lot of these questions do touch on sort of philosophical questions of freedom, or you know, lots of things about laws and legislation. So absolutely welcome to, but do remember, this is an economics competition, so ultimately we will be looking for that economic argument in it. If you do a podcast, then you can just write your references down on a Word document. The form will allow you to upload your podcast and then also a Word document, hopefully. If it doesn't, please do let me know, but I'm sure it does. Other ones we've got about the word count, I've already mentioned that. Would the results of the competition be out before the UCAS deadline? Yeah, I understand that's one that people will probably be a little bit concerned about. I think it will possibly depend. So I think if you were a finalist, you would probably know by the early UCAS deadline for Oxbridge and medicine and dentistry. You would know you were a finalist, but you might not know if you'd won. If you're going for the regular UCAS deadline of January, then you would know, yes, by then, because we would have the final held probably October, November time. Yeah, we're going to publish this recording on the website, and we'll also put it on our social media for you to access. I think we've gone through quite a lot of these now. We're also now joined, so I might pass over. We're joined now by Andrew Jack from the Financial Times, one of our sponsors for the competition. So it's really brilliant to have him here. He's over in America, I believe. So just before I have a look through and see if there's any other questions that pressing need answering, I'm going to pass over to Andrew so he can explain about FT schools and how you can get involved in the sort of resources that they have available to you. Over to you, Andrew.
Yeah, hello everyone. Can you hear? You can hear? Volume's okay. Great. Yeah. Hello everyone. Sorry it's joined late, but it's good to engage with you, and great to have another year of partnership with the RES Discover Economics around this initiative. Just a bit of background. I mean, the FT, as you'll know, has a wide variety of content of all sorts. Of course, economics, business, finance, as well as much wider issues around politics and policy and so on. And although typically we're obviously a subscription organization, we decided a few years ago that we would pretty much offer all of our content for free to schools around the world. And in the process, our hope is, I suppose, to kind of support three areas, one of which is curriculum enrichment, i.e. to provide sort of topical, useful news stories and insights and data that might flesh out the theories or the broader principles that are being studied in the classroom. A second is thinking about more of the kind of the meta level critical thinking tackling disinformation, thinking about media literacy, and trying to learn and interpret high quality information and sources. And the third is kind of easing the move into the workplace or the world beyond school with various different resources. So we partnered with various different organizations. One thing we've done, including with the RES, is around competitions, which we hope are a way to showcase and give an opportunity for the best students to both be published in the FT and sort of have something that they can cite as an example when they're going for interviews or applying for university or jobs, as well as hopefully being sort of fulfilling in its own right. And as I say, more widely, we've worked with a number of schools, teachers, and organizations to identify particular pieces of content that align with different curricula, including A-level economics, and share them along with the teachers, sometimes adding 3 or 4 questions or classroom discussion points so that can trigger either for classwork or perhaps some extra work before or preparation ahead of a lesson, those insights. We've done that in a number of different subjects, including in business and geography and psychology and philosophy even more recently. But economics, of course, is an absolutely core one for us. So very keen to encourage schools to simply register for the service. You get then a regular email. You can see on our website there's a special page, ft.com/schools, which highlights these different teacher picks and competitions and other initiatives I mentioned. I'm very interested to engage with you and hear any feedback or ideas that could make it more useful in teaching and learning, including in economics.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Andrew. So, check out the FT Schools website. There's loads of stuff on there. Some of it you might find relevant to your submission, and you will definitely find all of it really interesting. And we'll be highlighting some of those resources on our social media and on our newsletter over the coming weeks as well. So any questions for Andrew, feel free to put those in the chat, and I'll just run through some of the last few before we wrap up. Yes, you're welcome to enter the competition as an individual. Apologies, I have been pushing group submissions, but yes, you're absolutely welcome to submit as an individual. Themes and theories, we've talked about that. Yeah, you can talk about economic theory. You can add some economic ideas into it, absolutely. But remember, do try and keep it accessible. Make sure that it's relevant for the sort of audience that you're trying to reach, which is people your age generally. It's either an essay or a podcast or a video. So they're your main types of entry, and then you would also submit your references, and as we've said, your references don't count towards the word count as well. Sami and Yia's last year submission is available on the FT website, so I'll put a link to that on our website so that you can find it, and so they can all have a read of that one about big tech, because it was absolutely brilliant and we were really, really proud of that. Let's see what else there is. There's only one winner overall. There aren't any different age categories, but we do love to see entrants all the way through from year 10 to year 13, and we found last year that our finalists had a really great range in that age group as well. So, please don't be put off by the fact there might be older students or younger students submitting as well. Everybody's got something to offer to the competition. So we'd really love to see your submission. I think we have covered most of the main ones, but what I will do is I've got access to the question and answer. I'll have a look through, and if there's anything that I have missed today, I will put that onto our website on the frequently asked questions section as well. So apologies if I did miss yours while I've been talking, but hopefully that's most of them. And that's most of what we had to say today. So we really appreciate you coming to join us. In conclusion, basically, do apply. We'd love to see you. We had over 2,000 submissions from young people last time, and we want way more than that this time. We want to be inundated with your ideas. We want to hear what you think about economics, because ideally we want you all to go on and study in this incredible field. We think it's going to be absolutely brilliant for you. We'd love to see you there in the final in Canary Wharf in October, November time. And in the meantime, if you have any questions at all, our email addresses are available on the website. You can contact us through social media. We're always here, and we're happy to answer your questions. So again, thank you to Sami, Yia, and Andrew. And that's it. Have a lovely evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us.